Hi, I'm Ben, and today we are talking about the final Oscar predictions. Today is Sunday, January 12th, when I am recording it, and the announcements of the nominations will be happening Sunday, January 19th, unless there's any more delays. And this is a bizarre award ceremony year because I don't think there's any consensus. I don't think there's any clear frontrunners. I'm not talking about shorts. I just don't know those well enough, and I'll watch them once the Academy announces them. I'm talking about every category. I'm doing it in order of typically the way the broadcast does it. So I took last year's order, and that's how we're talking about them today. But without further ado, let me share my screen. And the first category that we are talking about is Best Supporting Actress. So I have my five names. I have the ones in bold are the ones that I feel the most confident about, where I'd almost say they're locks. Everyone else I have some questions about. I'm not going to be doing a thorough breakdown on all these categories because that would just be way too long of a video. But I did want to talk about these names in some particular order and maybe give some thoughts here and there. The five that I am saying for Best Supporting Actress, I have Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, who I think may go on to win this Oscar. I have Ariana Grande for Wicked. And then that's where my confidence stops. Everyone else I have some question marks on. As I have it listed right now, I have Monica Barbero for A Complete Unknown. I think the SAG nomination helped her. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. I don't feel good about that one, and I've been pretty critical of that performance and how little it means to me in the movie Conclave. And then Selena Gomez, Amelia Perez. I actually feel a little bit more confident despite having that one in at five. Honorable mentions for this category are Margaret Qualley, who I really does hope makes the push to get in. Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, which I saw The Brutalist a few days ago, and I have some thoughts on the Felicity Jones performance. Not a lot of them positive, to be honest. And then Daniel Deadweiler for The Piano Lesson, who obviously just got in at SAG. I'd love to see Margaret Qualley jump in here. If I could get Qualley in here for Rossellini, I think this is actually a really strong, exciting group of five. But with that said, let's jump over to the next category. I have animated feature. This one is the easiest of five locks. I didn't even throw any honorable mentions on it because I think it's as simple as this. I have Flow, which I think right now is in position to win. I have The Wild Robot. I have Inside Out. I have Memoir of a Snail. I have Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. I think this is a really easy category. I'd honestly feel safe at locking all five of these in. I don't think there's anything that is competing with it. Moana 2 won't be in it. Lord of the Rings flop. The Transformers movies isn't going to get in here. Like, I really, its only competition I would say is Moana 2 and Piece by Piece. Like, I feel really good about these five. So we're not going to spend any more time with it. I should just say, if you're liking this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. But moving forward, let's jump into original screenplay, which you can see I feel really good about four. And I think the fifth slot will go to an international film. I'm still a little unsure which one. I have Anora, I have The Brutalist, I have A Real Pain, I have The Substance. Those are my four locks in the original screenplay. You could argue The Substance maybe shouldn't be a lock, but I just feel good about it. And then in the fifth slot right now, I have The Seed of a Sacred Fig with the honorable mentions of All We Imagine Is Light and Hard Truths. So as you can see, I clearly think an international film will get into this fifth slot. I was leaning almost for a second, All We Imagine Is Light. However, the fact that it's not going to be eligible for Best International Feature, that's where I get a little worried about it, where I'm just like, so All We Imagine Is Light's not going to get the international. It's probably not going to get a Best Picture. Like, that's where I get a little confused, where I'm like, so we're only going to award it for All We Imagine Is Light. And when these films are always seeking visibility, I think the fact that The Seed of a Sacred Fig is in the conversation for more awards is going to help it out. I also had that confusion with Mike Lee's Hard Truths, which I'm not feeling the momentum. I think if Marianne Jean Baptiste was making a resurgence of anyway, and again, BAFTA could, push some actors forward. But right now, I'm going to give it The Seed of Sacred Fig. I think that story, I think what it's trying to say, the way that it had to be filmed, I think that's going to resonate with people. So those are my five, with four of them feeling fairly comfortable. Adapted screenplay, I feel even less sure. I have Conclave, which is going to go on and win. I'd almost say this is a lock to win. Emilia Perez and Wicked. Those are my three that I feel good on. And then I have Dune Part 2, which I feel fairly confident in, and then Sing Sing. Honorable mentions, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, A Complete Unknown. I don't think a complete unknown will get in. I know some people are predicting it. This movie is so largely based around a concert film of Bob Dylan in many ways that it's not really an adaptation. I mean, it obviously is an adaptation of the book Dylan Goes Electric. It's just that so much of this movie can rely on just Timothy Chalamet portraying Bob Dylan and singing. Like, I don't like. There's not a ton of writing when you're just doing karaoke of Bob Dylan. So that's why I'm not positive. I don't feel that a complete unknown will get in there, I should say. Nickel Boys, I've heard some mixed things about, and I'm curious to check it out. I'll be having a review of this movie probably Thursday, the 16th, but I might have that pushed back a few days. So that one I'm also a little unsure of. And then I'm Still Here is the other film that I'm debating between. I think I'm Still Here could kind of get that international boost that I just talked about, but for right now, I think Sing Sing has the position to get in. I think that story, I think there's a narrative of what that story means, the real life situation that led to the creation of this story. Like, I think that's going to be, and of all of them, I think that has an emotional attachment for some people. I can see it getting championed, especially if it's going to fall through in a few other categories, which we'll talk about in a second. Makeup and hairstyling, I feel pretty good about this one. I have four that I feel pretty safe on. I think Wicked, I think The Substance, I think Emilia Perez, I think A Different Man are locks. Dune Part 2 is what I have in my fifth. And you'll kind of see with the ones that I'm less sure on, I end up just kind of going to the consensus of what I think the Academy will do, which is I think they'll nominate the films that they're going to see in high numbers. So I think a film like The Apprentice, which may still be struggling to get into any category, I think a film like Dune Part 2, which is at least going to get a handful of categories, is in a better position. I thought about putting Beetlejuice, and I thought the makeup in that movie was quite good. I just ultimately think the four feel locked, and I feel like Dune Part 2 will get a lot of below the lines, even though some of it's above the line support seems to be fading a little bit. Production design also felt pretty good about this one. And honestly, some people are going to question my number five, but I'll explain that reasoning in a second. The four that I feel pretty good on: The Brutalist, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Conclave. I should just say this is a list to some degree in the sense that these aren't who I think are most likely to get the win. It's just who I think is most likely to be nominated. So, like, if I had to say it, like, I think in this category, I think The Brutalist is 100% chance. And then maybe I think Wicked is like 97% and et cetera, on from there. So The Brutalist, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Conclave, and then I have Gladiator 2 in this category. Now, I just want to say the reason that I did this is because Napoleon got three below the line nominations last year, despite honestly, I think having less visibility than Gladiator 2 had. I know this film's divisive. I really like this film. I know other people didn't. I just kind of think Gladiator 2 will overperform in some ways. And I might be stating that too much. But when I looked at the production design competition, I'm like, I don't think Nosferatu is really going to make a case. Like, Nosferatu maybe deserves that number five slot. I just don't know if it's really making the case right now to get there. A Complete Unknown, like, I don't know. I did like It's a good movie. I didn't necessarily notice the production design. Like, Gladiator 2 at least has the scale of it. Now, admittedly, that would say that Wicked, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, like, that's a lot of one IP, and two, specifically Dune Part 2 and Gladiator 2, like, sequels. Like, I don't know if Dune Part 2 and Gladiator 2 will both get in. I just didn't have a better answer for it if I didn't really believe in a complete unknown in this category. Costume design. This one, as you can see, I had some huge question marks. I have Wicked. I have Dune Part 2. Those are the two that I feel safe on. Everything else I have huge questions marks on. Now, I have Gladiator 2, I have Complete Unknown, I have Conclave with honorable mentions of Nosferatu, Beetlejuice, and Emilia Perez. Now, let me kind of just explain my logic here. Wicked, Dune Part 2, I don't need to explain the logic. I think those are obvious enough. I think actually Conclave is pretty safe. I think it's not a period piece, but I think the ritualistic qualities of that film, really trying to recreate the clergy's outfits, like, there's a lot of extravagance in that movie, and I actually think Conclave maybe deserves to be higher on here. Nosferatu, like, it's a good movie. Again, not really a movie that I noticed the costumes. I guess I would almost say more makeup and hairstyling for that one. Beetlejuice, like, it has good costumes, but it also feels a little derivative of what the first Beetlejuice is. I mean, it's quite literally like the iconic costume in that movie has already been created. Emilia Perez, I could see making the argument, and this could just be the case of Emilia Perez is just going to rack up so many nominations. But I'll be honest, I didn't feel great about that one either. I mean, the only outfit that really comes to mind in that movie is Zoe Saldana in the red pantsuit, which leaves me with thinking like, okay, Gladiator 2 has a lot of costumes and a lot of very lavish costumes. A Complete Unknown is a period piece trying to recreate a specific era in the 1960s and what we know Bob Dylan to look like. So that's why I went those for costume design. So those are my five, but obviously I'm a little questionable on this category myself. Let's jump back. I have this next category. I have international feature, which, as you can see, I have very little confidence in this. I actually should have labeled three of these in bold. Emilia Perez from France. Like, I think this is the safe front runner to win this category. Seed of a Sacred Fig from Germany. I think it's a safe front runner. I'm Still Here actually should be in bold. I think Brazil will get their nomination for the Fernanda Torres movie, and Brazil will rejoice. I think Flow is certainly in this conversation from Latvia. And I had the Palestine movie From Ground Zero, which I actually just got a screener for. I may end up reviewing that for the movie. I'll have to kind of see how I think about the movie. And essentially, if my schedule for January is really filling up, so I may end up seeing this movie and not really reviewing it or talking about it closer to March when the ceremony happens. With that said, this is the tough case where I'm just like, I haven't seen three out of these five movies being listed here. And I now have screeners for The Girl with the Needle and Kneecap. So that should really help. And like I said, From Ground Zero. And I think I might have actually even a screener for the Seed of a Sacred Fig. But right now, it's just like, it's Emilia Perez, it's the Seed of the Sacred Fig, and everything else kind of still feels in competition with I'm Still Here feeling fairly safe. I I just think From Ground Zero getting the Michael Moore support, like this film finding some distribution love, like I could see it performing very well, I guess is how I'll say it. And I think Flow, if it really is the front runner to win Best Animated Picture, like there's the case for that. And I'm Still Here. You'll hear about this conversation in a second, but like kind of believe as in Fernanda Torres as I am like right now, like that's why it's here. So that's international feature. Actor in a supporting role. Let me grab some water real quick. Okay. This one I feel pretty good about, and some people may laugh or poo poo my fifth pick, but I honestly am just like, look at the competition. Like, tell me why it's not going to happen. Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. He seems to be the front runner for it. I'm kind of shocked. I think there's better actors on this list, or I should say, not necessarily better actors, better performances from actors on this list. Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown. I was kind of surprised to see how much he surged, but I just think it's ultimately the case of he is kind of the standard bearer in here. This is a popular film. He got the SAG nomination. Guy Pearce missed the SAG nomination, but I just don't think the Brutalist is going to get ignored by the Academy. And it's honestly a great performance from Guy Pearce that I will be talking about when I review this movie Tuesday. Yuri Borisov, he's just consistently held his ground in this category, which leaves a fifth slot. And I'm saying Denzel Washington. I know he missed the SAG nomination for Gladiator 2, but I don't believe for 1 second Jonathan Bailey's actually getting in this category. So that's where I'm like, well, Guy Pearce will slide back into that spot fine. And now it's really still the question of, is The Apprentice going to get Oscar love? And as much as I love this performance, as great as I think Jeremy Strong is, I mean, if it was a list of Jeremy Strong, Yura, Guy Pearce, Edward Norton, Kieran Culkin, I'd give the Oscar to Jeremy Strong in a heartbeat. I just don't know if he's going to be able to make it in. And I just think Denzel Washington, this is a legend. This is somebody that the Academy is very friendly with. And I think Gladiator 2, I think Ridley Scott's being a little underestimated here. I think he'll get a little bit more nominations than we're planning. And I think this will be the above the line support that Denzel Washington gets. So I'm putting him in over Clarence Macklin and Jeremy Strong for actor in a supporting role. Visual effects, this one is also a little bit weird, but I also ultimately, I think I have the right five here. Dune Part 2, Wicked, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like that's the easy stuff here. So now it's the question of what is left, and we have the short list for it. So looking at the short list, I was like, okay, I think Alien Romulus, which actually has really strong visual respects or visual effects, despite me not loving the movie. And then I'm like, Deadpool and Wolverine, like I like that movie, but like the visual effects in that movie, better man, like I don't know, like I'm not vibing with it. Like all the TikToks of this movie have been really funny. I can't say I care about Robbie Williams. Now listening to his movie, or his songs, I should say, on TikTok in the memes. I care for them even less. Twisters, like, I mean, I guess like Twisters actually does have good visual effects. So, like, maybe this could bump out an Alien Romulus or Gladiator 2, but I just think ultimately it's like Alien Romulus, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Dune Part 2. That's a pretty solid five right there, with Twisters being the only other one that I could maybe make the case for. I will see Better Man, I guess, but like $100 million on a movie about Robbie Williams, a guy I've never heard of, the music I've heard of now. It sounds very lame. And like, I don't know. It's really like that's going to be a struggle to get me into the theater for that one. Film editing. This one, you can see I feel fairly confident on. I have The Brutalist. I have Emilia Perez. I have Anora. I have Conclave. And then I have Nickel Boys in here at the fifth slot, with Dune Part 2, Wicked, and The Substance being the honorable mentions in this category. I think the first four are fairly defensible. It's the Nickel Boys one that I'm wondering about. And the reason I went into Nickel Boys with this one is this film has the first POV uh, framework for this movie, which I think is a feat of editing to pull this off in this movie. You could honestly easily make the case that, Wicked's going to get a Best Picture nomination, like Dune Part 2 is going to get it. Like, those two might be more favorites. They have the scale to them. Nickel Boys, I just kind of think the ambition of it may play out very well. And maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe having these four as locks, like maybe Honora is the one that really suffers a film editing nomination here. But ultimately, I'm going Nickel Boys here with a little bit of an unguided approach to this one. I don't feel great about this category, but I will go the Brutalist, Emilia Perez, and Nora, Conclave, and Nickel Boys, with Dune Part 2 and Wicked sitting out. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Documentary feature, I have no confidence in this category either. I saw Sugarcane and I think it's great and I think it's deserving. No Other Land, Daughters, Porcelain War, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn. Those are my five, with the honorable mentions of Will and Harper and Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat on my honorable mentions. I have the screener sitting now for Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. I will be watching this film probably right after recording this. I don't know. This one's a tough category, and no one seems to have an idea or consensus on it. All I will say is I want Will and Harper to actually break through in here. And I think The Remarkable Life of Evelyn would be a cool film to break in as well. So in that case, I could see something where I switch like Will and Harper and Porcelain War. But again, I'm not positive. The Academy has never seemed to gone for the documentaries that have a famous person at the center. I think of either the Mr. Rogers documentary or this year's Superman or the Michael J. Fox one last year. Like the Senior movie directed by Robert Downey Jr. Like, there's just so many cases of these missing out that I don't feel great about any of it. Cinematography, I have four that I feel pretty locked on. I have The Brutalist, which, yeah, that movie has really good cinematography. Conclave, which has very good cinematography. Dune Part 2, which I'm mixed on the movie, but it's undeniable in scale. Emilia Perez, which I just think is going to be the favorite in it. This is where it could get a little weird. I put Nickel Boys again, and you can kind of see, and we'll talk about it when we get to the Best Picture. I'm kind of putting if I believe there are 9 that seem to get in, I'm putting my luck in the 10th spot and just kind of seeing like what movie do I think will perform in that 10th slot. So I'm going Nickel Boys for that, which means Nickel Boys is being rewarded in a category like cinematography for many of the same reasons that I just listed below a few slides ago, with just the fact of what this movie is about and how the movie is filmed. Gladiator 2 being divisive, A Complete Unknown having good cinematography, but I wouldn't say anything great. Like Nosferatu not really being a film that I think is in much contention. Like, so maybe Anora could get into this one. I just think the Nickel Boys cinematography is probably much more noticeable. And again, I don't exactly know what they're looking for, but when I notice it, like Anora has really good cinematography, but Nickel Boys has like a very unique way to approach cinematography. So I'm going over the unique in this category and hoping my bet pays off. Sound. This one I had as a lock. I had Wicked, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Gladiator 2, with Blitz and Alien Romulus being the honorable mentions. This one's easy to me. 3 of these are basically movies full of musicals numbers. Wicked, Emilia Perez, a complete unknown. Like those three felt safe to me. Dune Part 2 literally has like excellent movies. Music, I should say. Sorry, music. Sound, not music, sound. It has excellent sound. Like even me being mixed on it, the sound is incredible in the movie. Gladiator 2, it's just like, okay, now all you have to do is beat out Blitz, a film that doesn't exist. And Alien Romulus, which honestly I think Gladiator 2 just has better sound. Like Alien Romulus has some really good sound in it, but Gladiator 2 just is a lot of movie and has a lot of sound and has the prestige of a Ridley Scott behind it. I don't know. Maybe I'm like overestimating Ridley Scott's grip. But I just think again last year Napoleon got 3 nominations, and I think Gladiator 2 is a better film. And it has weaker competition in this category when your competition is really Blitz and Alien Romulus. So that's why I feel pretty comfortable about Gladiator 2 in that 5th slot. Original score: The Brutalist, Conclave, Challengers, Wicked. And then I'm just going to put Emilia Perez at the 5. Just kind of because of the cases. I'm just like, you know what? Emilia Perez, musical, has music. Why not? Let's just throw it in the 5 there. That's beating out films like Gladiator 2, which I can't say like the movie has musical scores for sure. I can't say I really remember any of it. Nosferatu, which has a good musical score. The Room Next Door, which I still haven't seen, and The Wild Robot, which is a really good movie, and I can't really say I remember the score of that movie. At least with Wicked, at least with Challengers, at least with Conclave, at least with The Brutalist, I can remember it. I can't say I really remember Emilia Perez's score, but I just kind of think it's the musical effect being in favor for this category. So that's why I have those 4 as my locks, with Emilia Perez being my 5th. Original song, I actually think this is also kind of just a lock. El Ma from Emilia Perez, Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late, and then The Journey, which is the Diane Warren obligatory song that we have to include on this list from the 688. I looked at the original song category, and now with the Robbie Williams song being disqualified, I'm like, this category is going to suck this year. Like, just straight up, the Academy Awards is not going to be as good this year, because unlike which had last year, where you got the original song is a drag to get through while watching on TV for like a 3.5, 4 hour ceremony. Like it's a painful category sometimes. But last year you get a film like you get a song like I'm Just Ken. And that really adds some energy to the show. And like even Billie Eilish is famous and can sing well on stage. Like we're gonna get 2 Emilia Perez numbers and we're gonna get a Diane Warren number. Like honestly, that sounds awful. Like do not sign me up for that. But hopefully they combine the Emilia Perez songs so it's just one and we can kind of shorten it. But yikes, this is brutal. But yeah, I think this is kind of the consensus 5 in my opinion. Actor in a leading role. This is also one that I have a consensus. I accidentally highlighted the honorable mentions as well. I bolded them, but I think this one's easy. I'm going to basically copy and paste SAG here. Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Daniel Craig for Queer, and Sebastian Stan, The Apprentice, as my honorable mention. I've said it this whole ceremony. I think Sebastian Stan should be it. I would put him over Daniel Craig for sure. But the Trump of it all, I just think they're going to avoid it. So I think Daniel Craig, I think it's as easy as the one that he's had critical love for him, even though his film hasn't been critically loved. And a lot of actors seem to be impressed with the boldness of this performance. Directing, I think this one has a little bit of interesting elements of it. I think Brady Corbett is probably going to win this award with The Brutalist. I think Sean Baker is in the conversation. I think Audiard for Emilia Perez is certainly somebody who is in this conversation. And I think Edward Berger is pretty solidly in it for Conclave as well, leaving one slot. And I know everyone's kind of thinking, well, this should be Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. I think he's getting snubbed this year. I think the fact that this movie came out in like March or April is just really... No, this movie... I saw this movie in February. Yeah, I did. I do remember seeing this movie in February. I think it's just too long. I think had this movie premiered in the November, December range, like I think we'd be definitely talking about Denis Villeneuve getting in here. I think it's too little too late now. So I'm putting Coralie Farge in here for The Substance. I could see the case for Ramel Ross being in here, but I'm now just kind of like feel like I'm over betting on Nickel Boys, which is a film I'm not even as confident on, where I feel like the substance is really gaining some momentum. So that's where I'm going directing, leaving two categories. Actress in a leading role. You can see I have four that I feel pretty safe on, and then the fifth slot really just got changed with the SAG nominations. Mikey Madison for Nora, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Demi Moore for The Substance, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, leaving Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, who I'm putting in my fifth slot. I was going to say Angelina Jolie just gets the fifth slot here, but she missed SAG, and I think that's actually a big deal. And I don't think Nicole Kidman has the movie this year to really push her into the fifth slot, which really to me means like the competition for Fernanda Torres is Hard Truths or Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl. And Pamela Anderson's really good in that movie. Like, I already reviewed this movie now, but like Pamela Anderson is legitimately giving a really good performance in The Last Showgirl. I just kind of think the international support will rally more around Fernanda Torres than it will necessarily for a performance like Marine Jean Baptiste for Hard Truths. And I kind of think Fernanda Torres, there's just so much push, there's so much love for her from international voting bodies, especially Brazil. I feel okay putting her in the fifth right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but for right now, I feel okay about having her as my fifth, which leaves Best Picture, which you can see I have 9 that I feel pretty locked in on. My power rankings as of today, Honora still number 1. I think it might be losing some steam, but as of right now, I still think it is number 1. Emilia Perez, number 2. And I should just say, like, let's get back to Honora real quick. I jumped too quick. I know Honora did not win the Golden Globe. I know it went home empty handed. I will also just want to throw out that one of the guys who runs slash owns the Golden Globes now, along with Penske Media, also owns slash has business with A24, which I'm not saying you can buy a Golden Globe, but like I do think that might have benefited the Brutalist. Like, I don't know. Just going to throw that out there. With that said, like, I need to kind of see Nora start winning some more. But at this moment, I still just kind of think of Nora. I'm keeping it at the number 1. I think it's a lock to a nomination at the very least. Emilia Perez, number 2. The Brutalist, number 3. Wicked, number 4. Conclave, number 5. I think everyone kind of agrees on those 5. Maybe just disagreement on the order. Number 6, Dune Part 2. I know it's losing some momentum, but I still think it gets into this race pretty easily. I keep saying A Real Pain. I just kind of think gets into this race, no issue. A Complete Unknown, I have at number 8. I think SAG definitely showed that this movie has some love from the actors, and I think it just seemingly performed very well. The Substance, which makes me happy, I'm keeping that at number 9 just because I'm not really believing in anything else taking it, which leaves that number 10 slot. And I was battling between a film like Sing Sing taking this number 10 slot, or a film like Nickel Boys, or another international film like The Seed of the Sacred Fig taking it. Ultimately, I'm just going Nickel Boys with this prediction. I think I keep getting reminded of the campaign last year that MGM ran for American Fiction, and I think a lot of those ideas can then be transcribed onto Nickel Boys. The one thing that I will say is I think Nickel Boys is a little bit more divisive than American Fiction was, and I think less people have seen Nickel Boys. With that said, I just think the uniqueness of that movie is going to play with some people and really get some champions for it. Which now let's come up to my tallies. Based on my prediction tallies, this is what I have. Emilia Perez, I have getting 14, which makes sense when you consider it's getting 2 Best Supporting Actresses and 2 Best Original Screenplay or 2 Best Original Songs. Like, if you really are counting Selena Gomez in there, I think the math really works out in the favor of Emilia Perez being the highest counted film just because it has the song aspect to it. It has the musical aspect, helping it in the below the lines. Conclave, I have 10. Uh, Again, Rossellini is definitely helping that case, and I think this film has a lot of costume and production design and cinematography going in its favor. Wicked, 10, which again makes sense to me. The Brutalist makes sense to me at 9. Dune Part 2 makes sense to me at 8, and I think that's a respectable number considering I'm really kind of excluding it from all the above the lines categories. minus screenplay and picture. Anora at 7. I will admit that number seems a little low to me, but I can't really make a case for it getting into a bunch of the below the line categories. So I think it performs very well above the line with picture, actress, best supporting actor, like screenplay. Like that's 4 already. And did I say screenplay? I don't remember if I had said it, but regardless, like there's enough easy ones for it to get. Uh, so like that's 5 in the above the lines if I'm doing my math right. Like picks up a few below the lines. Like I think that makes sense to me. But I will admit, when I saw the number 7, I'm like, is that a little low? A complete unknown 6, that feels like a healthy number. And that really does rely on the belief that Edward Norton and Monica Barbero are going to get in. Originally, I thought this might only be a Timmy Chalamet play. It seems to be doing better. This is the one that worries me a little bit. Gladiator 2 at 5 just looks a little wrong. But again, if you're going by the number of Napoleon getting 3 last year in a Oscars that I think had more below the line love for films like Oppenheimer and Barbie and Killers of the Flower Moon, like, and The Zone of Interest. Like the fact that Napoleon got 3 in a what I would call a competitive year, and Gladiator 2 is, I'm making the case for 5 in a year that I think has a lot of question marks. Like that's how that logic made sense in my head. The Substance at 5. Yeah, I mean, this is solely the case that I think it's going to get picture, actress, and screenplay. I hope this is a film that we're not all just overestimating right now and it comes back and it's like 0. Like I really hope The Substance really performs. And honestly, I hope it performs better than we have it. I would love to see this film be one of the higher nominated. If this film gets 6 because we get Margaret Qualley in there, like fantastic. Nickel Boys 3, I made the case for it in the video, and then A Real Pain 3. And then I had a bunch of films that had 2s or 1s. I didn't feel like they were necessary. Everything that got a 3 or above I spoke about in this prediction tally. So let me cut back to myself right now. So those are my final Oscar predictions. So let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know where you agree. Let me know where you disagree. Let me know where you are also confused, and drop your predictions down in the comments below. My name is Ben Friedman. I will be back Tuesday. I'll have a review of The Brutalist. Thursday, I will probably have a review of either Nickel Boys or Sing Sing, or maybe another film. I think it's probably going to be Nickel Boys, though. And then I'll probably have a few more reviews dropping. I'm sure I'll have a Sing Sing review. And then Sunday, I will be going live, assuming that that date still happens. I will be going live for the actual Oscar predictions, or maybe not live. I don't know if I'll actually go live, but I will at the very least be commentating on it that day when Oscar announcements happen. So make sure to subscribe for all of that. And I thank you all so much for watching, and take care. Bye bye.